My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen carefully, because these days, something unusual has been happening around me, something I did not want you to discover through fear, rumors, or the careless words of another person. It involves your family, but the truth is much deeper than what you may have noticed on the surface, and before you decide that you already understand what is happening, you need to know why certain things have suddenly begun to feel different. You may have sensed it without being able to explain it. A strange silence. A change in someone's expression. A conversation that stopped when you entered the room. A message that came later than expected. A person who suddenly became distant and then strangely warm again. Perhaps you have even felt that someone in your family has been carrying something they are afraid to say, something that has been growing inside them for longer than you realize, and the reason you have been feeling this invisible tension is because something hidden has begun moving toward the light. For days, there has been an unusual stirring around you. It is not necessarily something terrible. In fact, the truth may be connected to something you once prayed for, something you almost stopped believing could happen. But when change begins quietly, it rarely announces itself in the way you expect. Sometimes it arrives through silence. Sometimes through an unexpected conversation. Sometimes through the sudden behavior of someone who has been pretending that everything is fine, and that is where your story begins to change. You have been wondering why certain people have been acting differently around you. You may have looked at their faces and sensed that they knew something you did not. You may have noticed someone looking at you and then quickly looking away, as if they were afraid you would read the truth in their eyes. You may have heard your name mentioned in a conversation that suddenly became quiet, and somewhere deep inside, a question began forming that you could not silence. Why are they talking about you? Why does your family suddenly seem different? Why does it feel as though something is approaching, and most importantly, why does your heart keep telling you that something has changed even though nobody has explained anything to you yet? There is a reason you have been feeling this way, and it begins with someone close to you who has been carrying an emotion they have struggled to express. This person has watched you go through more than you realize. They have seen moments when you smiled while carrying pain. They have noticed how you became quieter after certain disappointments. They remember things you thought everyone had forgotten, and recently, something happened that caused them to look at you differently. You may not know what that moment was. You may not even have been present when it happened, but someone saw something, someone heard something, someone discovered something, and what they discovered changed the way they understood you. At first, they did not know what to do with the information. They kept it to themselves. They replayed the conversation in their mind. They wondered whether they should tell you. They questioned whether you would believe them. They even considered remaining silent because they were afraid that telling you the truth might create conflict inside the family. But silence became heavier than honesty, and that is why you may have noticed unusual behavior lately. A family member may have suddenly become protective of you. Another may have started asking questions about your future. Someone who rarely checks on you may have started reaching out unexpectedly. Someone who once seemed uninterested in your dreams may suddenly want to know what you are planning next. You may think these are ordinary changes. They are not as ordinary as they appear, because behind these small movements is a conversation that has not yet reached you, and that conversation is connected to something you thought was finished, something you believed had passed, something you thought you had already accepted. But what if you were wrong? What if the chapter you thought had ended was only waiting for the right moment to reveal what it was really about? There are moments in life when you are asked to walk without understanding where the road is leading. You have experienced those moments. You have prayed without knowing whether an answer was coming. You have waited while watching other people move forward. You have wondered why certain doors closed when you were ready to enter. You have questioned why certain relationships changed, why certain people disappeared, and why your family sometimes seemed unable to understand what was happening inside you, yet something was being prepared beneath the surface. You could not see it because you were looking for an obvious sign. But the sign was hidden inside the silence. The sign was hidden inside the delay. The sign was hidden inside the person who suddenly changed their attitude toward you. And now, something is beginning to emerge. There is someone in your family who has been thinking deeply about you. Not casually. Not for a few minutes. They have been thinking about your life, your choices, your struggles, and the road ahead of you. They have been asking themselves whether they misunderstood you. They have been remembering things you said long ago and realizing that perhaps you were trying to tell them something they were not ready to hear. That realization has created an emotional conflict inside them, because admitting that they misunderstood you means admitting that they were wrong. And pride can make people delay the truth for a very long time, but pride eventually becomes exhausted, and when pride becomes exhausted, the heart begins speaking. That is what is happening now. Someone who once judged your decisions is beginning to understand why you made them. Someone who once questioned your silence is beginning to understand what caused it. Someone who thought you were being distant is beginning to realize that you were protecting your heart, and someone who believed you had moved on from something may soon discover that you never truly stopped caring. This is where the story becomes more mysterious, because the person connected to this change may not be the person you expect. You may immediately think of the family member who has always been closest to you, but there is another person whose feelings have been hidden much more carefully. This person has watched everything from a distance. They have not spoken much. They have allowed other people to assume they do not care, but they care, more than you know, and recently, something reminded them of you. It could have been a place, a photograph, a familiar name, an old message, a song, a simple sentence spoken by someone else. Whatever it was, it opened a door inside them that they had kept closed for a long time. Suddenly, memories returned. They remembered your voice. They remembered your kindness. They remembered something you said that they did not understand at the time, and they remembered the moment when you walked away without knowing whether they would ever come back into your life. That memory hurt differently this time, because time had changed the meaning of it. What once looked like rejection now looked like protection. What once looked like distance now looked like sacrifice. What once looked like the end now looked like an unfinished story. And this is why something unusual has been happening around your family. People are beginning to reconsider what they thought they knew about you. They are beginning to connect pieces of a story that were separated for too long. And one particular truth is getting closer to being spoken. You may have spent a long time wondering whether someone understood what you were going through. The answer may surprise you. They did. They simply did not know how to respond. There are people who love you but do not know how to communicate love. There are people who worry about you but hide their concern behind criticism. There are people who miss you but refuse to admit it because they are afraid of appearing weak, and there are people who have wanted to apologize but have been waiting for the perfect moment that never seemed to come, until now. Something has shifted. The emotional distance is beginning to crack. The silence is beginning to weaken, and the truth is beginning to move closer. You may soon hear a sentence that seems ordinary to everyone else but carries enormous meaning for you. Something like, "I was thinking about you." Or, "I remember what you told me." Or perhaps, "I should have listened to you." And when you hear those words, you may realize that the conversation you thought would never happen has finally arrived. But there is another layer. The family situation is not only about what happened in the past, it is also connected to what is about to happen in your future. Someone has been discussing a possibility involving you, a decision, an opportunity, a change, a reunion, a movement, something that could place you in a completely different emotional position than where you are standing today. You are not yet supposed to know every detail because if you knew everything too early, you might try to control the outcome, and you have already spent enough time trying to control things that were never yours to control. Sometimes the greatest transformation begins when you finally stop forcing the door. You stop chasing the person, you stop explaining yourself, you stop begging people to understand your heart, you stop trying to convince everyone that your intentions were good, and you simply become still. That stillness is where something unexpected begins.